Hello, my name is Justin Quinn, and I'm going to be doing my proposal on exposure and what can chemistry accomplish for exposure. So, if we step back and we take a look at the problem, the biggest problem is that there's many of these hazardous materials in the workplace, and people are using these things such as glue and chemicals and cleaning supplies and things like this in their everyday lives. And it's not the fact that the people are in danger, but the people have to stay in danger to make money to provide for these families. And their families are the ones that are also secondhand in danger because people are going to work and they're getting these chemicals and hazardous materials on their clothing and on their person and bringing them home. And in some of the more severe cases, some of these things are such as radiation, for example, are actually cutting lives short. And hazardous materials don't just stop at the workplace, but they've invaded our environment and it's starting to create a bigger problems with carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere and other things of that nature. As you can see in the statistic in the bottom right, over the last 8 millennia we've stayed pretty steady going up and down, but as of 2018, just last year, our parts per notation of dioxide has skyrocketed, and that is it's very bad because we're not only taking a hit in ourselves, but we're losing wildlife, um, and waste is starting to build up, and it can create smog and pollution and other things of that nature. So if we start thinking about this and what are some solutions that have already been tried, how can we help this situation? The government has actually looked at this, but never really put more into it. They have some positives, creating awareness and some restrictions to do within the workplace, but that's kind of where they stopped. And even then, they're not really enforcing it as I believe they should. But I have noticed that a society called the American Chemistry Society, or ACS, has created small scale experiments with green chemistry, and it's something that I've taken note of that it has many positives. It's decreased in the hazardous materials, is cost effective in the long run. It also creates a better product, um, one that doesn't harm the environment as much. There are also some negatives, of course, like anything good is holding it back. That the research and testing takes time, and if you don't understand exactly what you're doing, then you may turn out with something that could have been better, if you get what I'm saying. And funding is something that is very hard for green chemistry because it's not as widely known, but they do get grants of a pretty good size during the seasons of summer and winter is when they normally get their stuff. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. But what my proposition is that what if we take green chemistry internationally? What if we partner with somebody like the EU to create a better atmosphere, something that they have already showed interest in? What if we can create a better environment? And while doing so, we can start taking some of these hazardous materials in the workplace and helping that as well. After all, they do say that two people are better than one. You know, like four eyes are better than two, or as the sayings go on and on. But like more is a little bit better if you're talking about fighting towards a common goal. And the fact that we can stand on a common ground of wanting a better tomorrow and creating a better society that people can get along and we can work towards a common goal and fight towards this common goal is very important, I feel, in going forward. But you may be asking, what exactly is green chemistry? And as you can see by the picture on the screen, this man's name is Barry Throst. He's the first one to start thinking about the concepts of green chemistry, which mainly circle around the idea of atom economic. Atom economics, sorry. What atom economics is that it reduces the amount of non-renewable resources as well as reducing the number of steps used to synthesize certain chemicals. Uh, what this means is that with every time that you synthesize a new chemical, you may be losing some electrons or gaining some electrons as you use stoichiometry and balancing equations and that sort of thing that you may have even learned in high school chemistry. But this takes it on a very a very detailed level, because if you can reduce the amount of waste and the things that are coming off as a byproduct and only using one thing, then that's a big decrease of the waste that we're using in everyday society, meaning that it is cleaner and we can start using some of these green alternatives to save our environment. And they've actually used like I said before, they also used uh, a process of this to decrease the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere for like a little area. So if we could start doing this in different places, it may make a little difference now, but in the end, instead of increasing, we have some way of decreasing, and that I feel like that is very important. But the feasibility of doing this is, I feel like it's more possible than a lot of other alternatives. Because if we open this to global efforts and we can get people like the EU that have people that the US can't reach, um, mainly doing with the Middle East, I feel like that would be a big problem with us trying to work on global efforts. But if we can build these international relations and we can fight towards this common goal, we can not only share cost with other countries, because economics is a big thing, not just atom economics, of course, but the cost of doing these research trips and understanding, and that'll have a lot of time saved, because not every country is going to be working on the same project, but we can also create a database, so once somebody makes a breakthrough, we can share it with other countries and they can try to incorporate this in their lives and their jobs, and what people can do to make this better. But what we need to do now and as soon as possible is to take action. So with these international relationships built and more people feeding into these databases, that we can start implementing what the findings and the groundbreaking evidence that we can improve our quality of life overall, whether it be pollution or the environment or exposure in the workplace. Um, it 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 just makes for a better tomorrow and better things that we can do because of it. And like I said, my name is Justin Quinn, and these are the references that I've used. Um, I'm more than happy for you to pause the video at any time to look back at it. Just give me some positives and negatives that you can see that I have done. It is a little bit more different not being able to speak in front of an audience, but to a computer, and I find myself tripping over my words a lot more. I don't feel as confident, but hopefully I did okay, and I really appreciate the offer. I'm gonna flip back through the slides one more time so you can see, and yeah, that was exposure, and I hope that you can see what chemistry can accomplish for us in the future. Bye.